How do you build a high-performing culture? This is Culture Architects. Candid conversations with extraordinary leaders sharing their biggest successes, failures, and lessons learned on their culture journeys. Here's David J. Friedman.
Welcome back to my conversation with transformational career coach Geneviève Retzlaff. Last time, Geneviève shared how she got her start with human resources at Cirque du Soleil and how that led to her interest in leadership. In this new episode, we're going to break down what it really means to be an authentic leader and how this process takes place in practice with Geneviève and her company, Grow Better Together. When you use that word authentic, which I hear a lot, authentic
It's a bit
leadership,
of a buzzword now.
It is. And so what does that really mean from a practical standpoint? What is authentic leadership from your perspective?
It means that you bring your whole self to your role, to your work, to your team. You are aligned. You understand. You become a lot more self-aware. And so there's no, and I've never been good at that, but this political game, right? So you never really know, am I walking on eggshells? Can I say what I think? And then when you don't allow your team to do that, to be their whole self, then you're missing out on innovative ideas. You're missing out on psychological safety. You're missing out on all these very important things that will make your team and your organization thrive. So just to go back to your question, what is an authentic leader? Is somebody who brings their whole self to work and allows their team to bring their whole self to work.
Got it. So you talk, I know, a lot about connection in the workplace. So let's define it. What does that mean for people to have connection?
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit woo. What I mean
does, I'll be honest.
Yeah. I use the word connection. I think it might come from a lack of a better word. It's like I don't really know how else to explain what we're trying to do in organizations. But it feels like connection is what unites different things together, right? It's kind of the glue. And so it feels like the three pillars that we use or that we talk about is connection to your organization, connection to your team, connection to your role. But it essentially it's more like if these two things come together, then there's better chances to be successful. So I don't know if you have a better word for me, David. I'll take it.
Well, some of our listeners know I live in the Philadelphia area, and so as you and I are recording this, the Philadelphia Eagles are getting ready for the Super Bowl in a couple of weeks.
I know. I watched.
I was there at the end. I was there at the game the other day.
What?
But I'm a season ticket holder, so I'm at all the games. But the Eagles coach, Nick Sirianni, has a set of core values that they talk about on the Eagles, and one of them is connection. That is one of their named core values. And the way he describes that often is that when players feel connected to each other in the sense that they literally care about each other, that they understand each other, that they're friends, that they feel some emotional relationship with each other, they play harder for each other. That they're more willing to sacrifice for each other. They're more willing to root for each other, to support each other. And an example of that in the football world was in this last game, late in the fourth quarter, when the Eagles thankfully were leading by enough to put in their second string, and Will Shipley, the running back, who was actually the third string running back, scored a touchdown, and Saquon Barkley, their famous running back, ran down the sideline and embraced him and was so excited for the third string guy to get the chance to get that touchdown. And that was an example of the connection they had built, that he cared enough about his teammates that he was as excited for his teammate to score a touchdown as he was for himself. And it's at least Nick Sirianni's belief as a coach that, if we can create those connections, people play harder for each other, and it translates into results.
Yeah, 100%. I love that example, and it translates so well into business as well, right? So this sports team, they use the word connection, but ultimately what they do is that, as you said, they care for one another. And I think there's a distinction to make between like a family and a business too. Like there are some beliefs that an organization is like a family. I don't follow this belief. I think there's something very different between a business and a family. So how do you build connection with something that you can't call your family, but are there to bring business results? That's when I think purpose and meaning come into play. I think if people are connected enough to your vision and your mission and the work you actually do, like I said, I feel in entertainment and sports, then it's a winning game already.
Yeah, the family thing is an interesting thing because there is a lot of literature out there about on both sides of that argument. We shouldn't say that we're a family, we're a business. And some say, no, we do say that. And it's interesting. My own personal point of view, not right nor wrong, is that when people say we're a family, they don't mean that in a literal way. What they're meaning to say is we really care about each other. Yeah. And I think about some of our clients. I was talking with one of our earliest clients recently. They've been practicing what we teach for 10 plus years. And one of their, we call them fundamentals, is that they treat each other like family. And they want to be very clear. That's how we are. We care about each other a lot. And more than just as coworkers, that we're invested in each other. We are connected. And that's what they mean when they say, yeah, we do want to say that we're like a family here. And employees feel good about working in a company where we're like a family. And so I don't think people mean that literally. And so I'm not against somebody saying, hey, we're like a family here, because they mean that in the positive sense. Yes, some people have dysfunctional, messed up families that they don't want to be a part of, but that's not what we're really saying here. We're saying this is the spirit of what we're after.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's it's an interesting point. I also think it would be different if it comes from the need for connection for employees to say that, but as senior leadership to impose this on people to say like we need to act as a family is I think it would send a different message. But as long as the intention of the messaging and the understanding is the same, whatever works, right?
Well, and the way that I would see that, at least, is that I have a strong belief that there's not one right or wrong culture, that each leader creates the culture that he or she wants to create. And if you're a fit for that, wonderful. And if you're not, you should work somewhere else. And so if I'm a leader and I want to create an environment in which people really care deeply about each other, well, we're going to do those kinds of things. And if that's not the kind of place you want to work, because and there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't want to be connected to my coworkers, I just want to go in and do my job and go home. That's fine. You should probably work in a different company, because in this company, this is how we do things. And so to me, it's okay for a leader to take that point of view, because he or she is just stating, this is the kind of company we're building. It's not right for everybody, but we're going to attract and bring in the kind of people who do want to be in that kind of environment. And if it doesn't for you, you should work somewhere else. Yeah.
Culture really should guide the engagement and how people feel. Yeah, for sure.
So as you work with people on developing the cultures that will help them to be successful, what is your point of view about how do you work with people in terms of defining their culture, whether it's in a set of core values, behaviors, visions, missions, all the different lingo that's out there? How do you approach helping them define and articulate what they want their culture to do?
I think a good old strategic planning is the way I go about that. And sometimes, depending on, I just meet the client where they're at. So sometimes they're very clear on their vision, but their values and mission are not clear or something like that. But I am, because I believe in connection and knowing what your people care about and being able to see where it aligns, then I work a lot with values. So values are not the only piece, but they're a big piece of it. And I think we do this a bit differently from other people in the field that I've spoken to in terms of values, value definition. We survey everyone in the company. And then we say, what is important to you? Like, just name your top values. And we want to connect, again, I'm going to use the word connect a lot, but connect to what your people care about, as senior leadership coming to a table deciding on company values versus surveying your entire organization. It has a different message going like, we actually care about what you care about and we want to know about it and see where are the commonalities. And it gives you also, as a ripple effect, so much insights on your people and what they care about and how can you make them more engaged if you know what they care about. And then we kind of bring that together. We find commonalities, and then we bring that back to the leadership table. This is what people care about. What do you think? And then we have some sort of a workshop, and then we define that. And then we go from there. And depending, if we talk to very strongly purpose-driven companies, then they use that as their core to revisit their vision and their mission. Is this where, does this resonate with the rest of our strategic planning?
It is an interesting point of view, and some of our listeners know that, or if they've read into my material, that I'm different from most people in how I think about that. And again, these are neither right nor wrong, just different ways of approaching it. But from my perspective, we have many clients who will ask us, should we be doing a survey of all of our people to ask about those things they care about? And I'm kind of a little bit of an anomaly. I say no.
Okay.
And the reason I say no, it's not that we don't care, but it's that from my perspective, and again, this is just my perspective, the defining of the culture is a leadership function. If I'm a leader, it's my job to say, what's the company I'm trying to build, and to get people who want to go where we're going. And so I say it's a design function. We're designing the amazing company we want to build. We're not necessarily designing it around the people who coincidentally happen to work here right now. Some of those people may not be here in the future. Why would I be designing around what they want versus what we're trying to build? Now, in reality, rarely is there a big disconnect between those two, because if I'm a good leader, even if I've not articulated clearly enough what I want, people have a sense of it. And there's almost a tacit understanding that I've probably brought in people that, even if I've not articulated, I've probably brought in people that largely are aligned around the way that I lead and my vision. But ultimately, are we trying to design our organization around the people we have, or are we trying to design our organization around a vision we have and get people who want to go there? From my perspective, it's the latter. That as a leader, it's my job to articulate, with input from my leadership team, but to articulate the vision of what I'm trying to build and to collect a group of people who want to go where we want to go, as opposed to me looking backwards and saying, what do my people want and how do I create that for them?
Right.
So it's just a different point of view about it.
Yeah. I think what you just said, like, what do my people want and what do I create around that? I wouldn't say that would be the approach, but it's more like, and I think the effort, and this is very interesting. I'd love to have your point of view because it's like total opposite approach, right? And I'm just like, I like to jam a little bit on that. But what I'm thinking is just going to what the new generations want. They want to feel included. They want to feel like they're creating an impact. They're part of the purpose. They're part of what they're doing. They also want to bring their whole selves to work. And by senior leadership giving that a voice, I wonder if it's different. It would be seen differently, by different generations. Going like, well, like, so how do I get them engaged?
Yeah, my experience of that is that the reason that organizations typically will include so many people is to create the buy-in that they want, and that they want the staff to buy into where we're going. And I think that buy-in is very important. my experience is that there are other ways to accomplish the buy-in. So we can create buy-in by how it gets introduced into the organization in highly engaged interactive activities that every team member participates in and has a role in, but they weren't authoring it. And so we can achieve the goal of the buy-in and have people enthusiastic and excited about where we're going, even if they weren't the authors of it.
Right.
So it's just a different way to accomplish that goal. Because to me,
same goal, different approach.
A different way to get there. So we want people to be engaged. We want them to be connected, to use your word. We want them to be excited, enthusiastic about it. And in my view, the way we can do that is to create a vision that is compelling and to get people who are excited about that vision. If we've created as a leader a compelling vision that my people really want to go for, they're going to be really excited to be part of it.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't author it. And we can get them involved in buying into it. But the authorship, to me, is largely a leadership function.
Leadership function. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting approach. So one of the questions, just to shift gears a little bit, that I'm always curious about is, so you mentioned that earlier that when you got into the HR world, that you were just interested in helping people and thought, I'll just do HR, and that you might not think that was the best advice you would give to somebody else today. Yeah. And so I'm always interested in, over our careers, we learn so many things and things that we didn't know when we were younger. And I'm always curious to learn about, like, if you were talking to the 17 or 18 or 19 or 20-year-old Geneviève, and whether she would listen to you or not is a different question. But if you were to give her...
Probably
not when we're at that age, because we know everything back then. But if you were to give that Geneviève advice about what you've learned about leadership or people or culture, what advice would you give that 18 or 20-year-old Geneviève?
I think I would start with understanding I would tell myself to just understand your motivations. Like, who are you? What are your unique talents? And what do you enjoy doing? And don't try to be what the external wants you to be, kind of thing. Like, and that's where authenticity has a big part in the work I do too. I think, if I go back in time, like, I was always, even at school, I was like I wasn't part of the cool groups. I wasn't part of the reject. I was like going in between, going, can't we all just get along, And it feels like that's a little bit what I'm doing right now. Going like, okay, senior leadership wants the organization to go there. And the employees are feeling that, and then so how can we bridge that? And it just feels like it was always part of me. So if I were to ask my younger self, give my younger self an advice, it's like, look at what you're good at, and just don't go like this windy road to get where you want to get. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I would have listened to myself then, but it feels like I would have saved myself so much energy and motivation. And it's a bit of a rocky road, and even having your own business, like me, right? It's not always rainbows or butterflies, but as long as you feel kind of aligned with what you're doing, then it's all working out, right?
Your advice sounds consistent with of course, Marcus Buckingham and Strengths Finders is really all about what you're saying, is figuring out where are those strengths and aligning your work around what you naturally like and are good at. Did you read his last book, Love at Work?
No, I didn't yet.
Oh, you would find that interesting. Though. Yeah, you'd find that interesting. We actually did a book group for our company around that. Some people hated it and some people liked it. But the gist of that book is more along those lines. It's about Marcus Buckingham's point of view that each of us has something inside of us that we really love doing, that we're excited about, which sometimes, but not always, according to him, is aligned around what we're good at. So we could be good at something that we don't necessarily love. So those aren't necessarily identical, But his point of
Yeah.
view is if when we're young, we could, or at any age, if we could discover what we really, truly love doing and find ways to have our work be aligned around that, that we're going to be more successful. And his point of view is we should be, as school systems and teachers and others, helping young people to discover for themselves
Yeah.
what is it that they really, truly love doing. And
Yeah.
again, to the extent that they could have that in their work,
Yeah.
they're going to be more successful, happier, better human beings.
Yeah. And I hear even now, David, some clients of mine are like, I need to work on that weakness of mine. And I'm like, no, don't waste your energy there. Like, leave that to others that have that as a strength, And how can you find a team that is complementary, who don't have the same skills as you, and just go together from there. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation, Geneviève. I really appreciate you joining us. If people want to learn more about you and your company, tell me where would they go?
They could find me on LinkedIn. We have a Grow Better Together, also a company page on LinkedIn, but the website is grow-better-together.com. So you can always find more information on that and look at our newly launched Authentic Leadership Program if that interests you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again for joining us, and best of luck as you continue to help people create those connections and be more successful.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, David. Same to you.
My pleasure. And that's it for another episode of Culture Architects with Geneviève Retzlaff, transformational career coach and founder of Grow Better Together. Folks, if you've been enjoying what we do on this show, make sure you subscribe, and that way you'll get automatic updates on my newest episodes and guests. And if you have a minute, I'd love it if you left us a review, and that way more culture fans like you can discover the show. And if you want to learn more about building a high-performing culture in your organization or team, check us out at CultureWise.com. See you next time on Culture Architects.
This has been Culture Architects with David J. Friedman. Join us next time for more insights and wisdom from great leaders in all walks of life. To book David for your next event or to learn more about his writing, speaking, or consulting, go to davidjfriedman.com. Culture Architects with David J. Friedman is a production of CultureWise.